A lesson in grief. We are all grieving something all the time.
Now a man was ill, Lazarus from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who had anointed the Lord with perfumed oil and dried his feet with her hair. It was her brother Lazarus who was ill.
The stage is set with Mary, Martha's sister, had done for her friend, the rabbi Jesus, was to honor him and send the signal to Jesus and about Jesus that he's going to die. He and we should be ready for this last letting go. Here she anoints him with the same oil she will take to his tomb to anoint his body in death.
So the sisters sent word to Jesus saying, "Master, the one you love is ill." When Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it."
Jesus had lots and lots of people he helped. He had many that he taught. He had many that he cared for. Those were all part of his loving. And he also had friendships in which he rested and laughed and shared stories and was challenged, like all of us. Deep friendships. Lazarus was one of them. It was known that Jesus loved him and his sisters as dear friends.
Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was.
Did Jesus make a mistake here? When we find out somebody we love dearly is sick or facing difficult situations, we have to make tough decisions. Do I go? Do I stay? What if my work should be put on hold? And so we pack our clothes and make plane reservations, and we call the boss and tell him I have to be away for a few days. It's always a gamble when to go. Does he go now? Should he finish this also important work he was doing?
Then after this, he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jewish authorities were just trying to stone you, and you want to go back there?" Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours in a day? If one walks during the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks at night, he stumbles because the light is not in him." He said this and then told them, "Our friend Lazarus is asleep, but I am going to awaken him." So the disciples said to him, "Master, if he's asleep, he will be saved." But Jesus was talking about his death, while they thought he meant ordinary sleep.
Everybody, it seems, has opinions about what we should do next when it comes to critical moments in our lives. Whether it's finding out about a terminal illness or even serious illness, or what we should do when it's our turn to grieve, and how we should grieve. We who give advice to others who are going through these times should be gentle and kind in its offering, and then know when to shut up, when to support, even if we think it might be the wrong decision. Because when it's our turn to face dying, and even dying to self, or to be the caregiver, or when to go and when to stay, and what to say and how to help. In the end, each of us has to rely on their own intuition and our own faith and trust as we decide what is the next right thing to do, and then live with the consequences. There is a loneliness to grieving. Tough decisions nobody can make for us.
So then Jesus said to them clearly, Lazarus has died, and I'm glad for you that I was not there, that you may believe. Let us go to him." So Thomas, called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go to die with him."
Nobody wants to go to the bedside of the dead or the dying. We just have to pull up our big boy pants and our big girl pants and do it, because it's the right thing to do, even if we don't know what to say or what to do.
When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, only about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother.
The process of grief is full of excruciating letting goes. But you will be surprised at the people who come out of the woodwork when they would rather be anywhere else, because they love the one who died and because they love the one who grieves the ones who die. Like all things, grief carries its own consolations and desolations. And behold, in the midst of these awful desolations, there is this consolation from those who accompany us that is also true. It's just not either or. One does not cancel the other. It's always both and.
When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary sat at home.
Nobody cries the wrong way, and nobody cries the same as you. Everybody's way of grieving is different. Mary stayed home. She pondered and she was sad, dealing with it all on the inside, it seems. Maybe even depressed over her brother's death. Martha, her sister, was the anxious extrovert who had to do something, and so she rushed out to have this conversation with her friend and her rabbi.
Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you."
Where are you, God? Why are you not doing a miracle for me or for this man or woman I love? I believed in you. I trusted in you. I went to Mass every Sunday for decades of my life. You could have kept this cancer from happening. You could have kept this divorce from happening. You could have kept my child from that addiction. Where were you when I needed you? Like Martha and Mary, we wrestle with God, our faith shaken to the core. Either undermined, our faith will be either undermined once and for all, or purged of the BS of faith, which can take trust even deeper if we let it. It can take faith even deeper if we let it.
Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise." Martha said to him, "I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord. I've come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world."
Some people try to console the grieving by throwing out positive thoughts to distract them from their pain. And so the words we speak are always so positive to them. But even if they're wrong words, even if the theology is not really up to the task, we keep trying to turn them toward the positive. We try to argue the person out of their grief. People say the dumbest things. People say the dumbest things at the grave or the casket of the dead one. While it is well meant, grief, when it's raw, has no room for pious religion. It only leaves room for the one who trusts and who believes to have the courage to be there in love with the pain and with the deep sadness and the fear of the grieving. When someone is facing life without someone they love, there are no easy answers. Just being there is all that is left. Just being there and loving them as Christ did, as Christ would.
When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary secretly, saying, "The teacher is here and asking for you." As soon as she heard this, Mary rose quickly and went to him, for Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still where Martha had met him. So when the Jews who were with her in the house, comforting her, saw Mary get up quickly and go out, they followed her, presuming that she was going to the tomb to weep there.
Again, notice, she was not alone while making the loneliest journey. She was not alone making this last loneliest journey a human being can ever make. Jesus' students made a circle of love around him and walked with him. And now Mary's friends are doing the same for her. It's what grief does.
When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died."
Again, the doubts of faith. Where were you when I needed you? But this time, Jesus does not give theological answers. But perhaps he learned from his conversation with Martha that was not going to do much good. This time, Jesus does something different. He opens up his heart and feels. He lets himself feel. This time he feels with her. This time he goes from his head to his heart and stands with her and with his dead friend in total empathy. His feelings and his emotions matching theirs, even to the very depth of his being.
When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping, he became perturbed and deeply troubled, and said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Sir, come and see." And Jesus wept.
Perturbed is how the Bible was translated this time on that word. Perturbed doesn't capture what the Hebrew captures. Jesus wasn't perturbed at Lazarus' death. His guts were twisted within him, is the translation of that word. Like a knife in his guts were twisted within him. He was tortured in body and soul at the death of his friend. And here's the revelation. God is not the one who keeps our mortality from taking its toll. God is not the one who keeps death away from us. In the end, God is the one who is right there weeping with us, whose tears are mixed with our own tears. And the tears of Jesus are the tears of God. When we are weeping, God is never closer. They are the tears of letting go. God is crying in our crying. God is weeping in our weeping. God is powerless in our powerlessness.
So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?"
Once again, the questions of faith surface. People jumping into their heads as a way of coping. a way of avoiding the feelings of grieving. These questions are not meant to be judged, but to be heard for what they are: symptoms of a deep grief, part of the letting go that little deaths and the big death demand.
So Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him, "Lord, by now there will be a stench. He's been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?"
Yes, death stinks. For me, it smells like vomit. It makes me gag. And, as true as that is, Jesus is telling the crowd that the love he knew between each of them and Lazarus, and each of them and each other, and from him, is stronger than the stench of death. It's not the kind of strength that stops death from happening. It is the kind of strength that carries us to the other side of death, and that keeps us open to how that love will be manifest still, even though the one we love is no longer here. But the love is here. The love is still here. The love is and will be manifest on the other side of the grave. But it will only be available after I have had the courage to smell the stench of death.
So they took away the stone. And Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me, but because of the crowd here I have said this, that they may believe that you sent me." And when he had said this, he cried out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out!" The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, "Untie him and let him go."
Untie him even after his death. Untie him and let him go free. This is why I find the notion that's deep in the Catholic intuition, the notion of purgatory, makes so much sense. Even after death, I and you, we will all be making our way still towards the light. But there's still some untying. There's still some letting go as we come to completion on the other side, as we come to realize our wholeness. Even on the other side, we still need help. Still, our love can have its effect on the one who has died. Your love can still have an effect on the people you're praying for after they die. I can love you after you've died by praying for you and for sacrificing for you and holding you still in my heart. Yes, I want you to know, Gary Brown, if I survive you, Gary Brown will pray for you after you die, for at least a year after your death, and on the anniversary of your death, and on your birthday. I will pray for you still to be untied and set free in any way you still might need to be untied and set free. And after my last breath on this planet, I hope to God you're going to keep praying for me. I don't believe I'm complete yet. I don't believe I will be complete on this side of death. So please, pray for me. Because I'm not still on my way to the other side, though a whole different state of being. But I still will be in process. It's the truest thing I know how to say. Yes, I will need you on the other side of my death. You see, there's always this connection between us, now and at the hour of my death. My mom's dying words to us after asking us to pray for her after she died were simply these, and I quote, "My husband, my sons, my grandson, if I can, I will be watching over you from heaven."
Now, many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seen what he had done began to believe in him.
In Jesus' words in another place, "Blessed are you, ripening are you, blossoming are you, who have the courage to grieve." Can you trust that that's true?
The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You see, we are always grieving something all the time.